Good morning.
Good morning. Hello. It's really an honor to be able to talk to you about several topics.
Thank you. This is really a great honor and pleasure for me to speak to someone so well-versed in all these topics, which I kind of know just because I grew up as Taiwanese and, as Confucius in a Taoist society, but I don't really know. It's just kind of a fascinating topic for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, for me, it's a wonderful experience to see all these topics that are somehow very ancient and people may think they have no relation to the modern world that we live in, but to find so many aspects also in your artwork. So this somehow modernizes the things that I like to think about.
Thank you, Paulus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe we can start with this because I'm a philosopher or dealing with philosophy, and I can say that I also, if I look at your art, I think it's somehow very philosophical art or a philosophical kind of art. Would you agree to that, or is this idea of philosophy expressed by art, is that interesting for you?
Very fascinating. I often see myself not as an artist, because I don't really know what an artist is. When I was growing up, I went to school to be a musician, to be a violinist, and I kind of had an idea of what is it to be a classically trained artist, meaning you study the craft, and then hopefully you're good enough to elevate yourself from a sort of craftsman into an artisan, someone who can have an original idea. For me, what I do here, it's very much a way of looking into my own quotidian activity. For example, dining, sleeping, writing letters, singing, and dancing. So these are forms of personal rituals that we all have. We didn't go to school to learn them. We learn them from parents, from friends, or even from society, and then we form these things. So I think my art form could be quite philosophical in the sense that it is a philosophy that we ourselves come up with because of who we are and because we are a human being living in Munich, in Taiwan, in Paris, or New York. However, for example, if I'm in Taiwan, my philosophy might be slightly different than when I am living in Paris or New York. So it's quite flexible, shall we say?
Okay, but I see that the concept of philosophy, it's actually quite sympathetic to me, because what I also like about philosophy is not this theory building, let's say. Philosophers, they build these great theories about how the world works and they integrate everything. What I find more interesting, to me at least, maybe because I don't feel able to build great theories about how the world works, but this take in everyday experiences and reflect on them. And also to this is how I understood you now, to evaluate individual experience and individual perspectives. And for example, sometimes these questions for individual perspective is very obvious in Our Peaceable Kingdom.
Exactly.
Where you ask people, what is peace for you?
Yeah. And I think, because the other day somebody asked me, what is the role of peace within your artwork? And I responded by saying that peace is a very big term, but also a very intimate term. Because for me, I need to find the peace within myself first, in order to find the peace between you and me, and then maybe between me and my family, and then it goes bigger. And maybe finally myself with the earth. So, for example, the Peaceful Kingdom, we was looking into Edward Hicks' idea of peace, and he was a Quaker in the 19th century in America, in Pennsylvania. So his idea of peace is probably, you think, oh, it's so different from ours. No, actually it's not, because when you see his painting, his piece is about everything living in harmony. Yeah. And that goes back to more of a classical idea of 大同世界, when everyone is equal and similar. But again, I think it starts with our own idea of peace. So I ask all these different artists from very different places, from Hong Kong, Afghanistan, Taiwan, Korea, Germany, France, and each of them, even though some of them are from the same countries, their view of peace is so different.
Yeah. I think we'll come back also later to the topic of peace, also to ritual that you already mentioned, that plays an important part for your art. But let's stay maybe in this range of philosophy.
Great.
Another term that philosophy is often distinguished from is religion. And I mean, especially modern philosophers would say, okay, we do philosophy, you do religion. So there's really this distancing movement in a lot of modern philosophy. I don't find that in your work, and I don't find it in the authors I work with, because they were earlier than this break between philosophy and religion. And I also see a lot of religious inspiration in your work, isn't it?
I would say both religious and spiritual inspiration, mainly because growing up in Taiwan, so I was living in Taiwan until 12 years old, and then I left for Central America and then to America. It was a society that is filled with spirits. People believe things have their own spirit, and I think that's coming from both Taoist and partly Shinto and partly Confucius, and indigenous Taiwanese Aboriginal beliefs. I think within my work, because where I came from, I do have a sense of every gesture and every object in the room that you come into experience, especially the sentient beings, meaning the mender or the people who are singing, who are dancing, they are spiritual in all the senses of that word. So hopefully when you experience my work, or maybe other people's work, you have a sense of a conversation not only between you and the artist or the mender who is repairing the clothes, but really between you and yourself. It's that spiritual self within you. And hopefully my work can be a platform for that conversation.